So, I don't know if it's going to take me a while to get back warmed. I always say that. I always say it's going to take me a while to get back warmed up on here. But I was thinking about this earlier. I was thinking about how maybe somebody can relate to this if you've ever been, like, say you meet a new person, especially with new people. If you'll pay attention, you know, people usually have something that they try to like offer initially, like as a way of buying your approval or acceptance. A lot of times, depending on how insecure the person is, you know, they'll even be able to kind of pick up on something maybe that would appeal specifically to you, you know, whether it be like a material thing or something that you would have in common with them, just something that they can right off the bat, like, you know, relate to you on, or like offer to you, because unfortunately we live in a world where, you know, everything comes at a price. Everything is about, you know, everything is superficial, and unfortunately most people are extremely insecure, and they you know, think that the easiest way to you know, that love is earned or bought. And you know, unfortunately that's how a lot of us have been shown love from childhood. So with that being said, you know, I kind of, you know, like to take note of that when I meet new people, especially like I know I'm sitting in ants. Like, I knew this was gonna happen. They're everywhere. I keep getting, no matter where I go, I get bit by ants. Like, they'll even get me like when I'm in my own house. Or not my house, but so, you know, I just like to kind of pay attention to that, just to see, you know, just for fun, you know, what it is that, you know, I mean, it'll tell you a lot about the person, but also what they think about you, you know, like, and I just kind of laugh at the things that people these days think can, you know, it's very cheap. The people think that, you know, your love or your approval or your friendship or whatever it is, you know, can be bought at a very cheap price. And, you know, and I'm not saying this to be like, to sound like judgmental or critical of other people, or definitely not to like put them down in any way. We all do it to some degree, some more than others. But the reason I bring it up is because I thought, if they only knew the price that I was bought, but, you know, the price that my cost, you know, what Jesus did for me, and the very, very costly price that he paid for not just me but all of us, you know. And it's like, it's crazy to me that, you know, we have distorted and minimized the word love so far, because we have been shown by, you know, people throughout our lives, especially in the early years of our lives, we've been shown this very, very distorted, you know, false excuse for love, you know. And it's not because of any other reason besides people just don't know any better, you know. They can only give what they've received, and a lot of it is, you know, just very, very off base, you know. But I think it's crazy to me if people would stop to think, you know, how the price that was paid for them, you know, by the person, by the one that matters the most, the only love that you would ever really be able to receive or want to receive, you know, true, unconditional, unchanging, everlasting love that only comes from our Father, you know. And it's like, I don't make light of it, you know. I mean, like I said, like, I'm not trying to like make it be like, oh, like how these silly humans, you know, like, I understand that I am one. So I'm definitely not trying to make it seem like I'm like laughing at these people, but I am laughing at the thought that we live in a society that thinks that you can be bought at a price as, you know, trivial and as meaningless as, you know, material things or money or a common interest, or, you know, just, oh my gosh, we share this common experience or trauma, or, you know, just something so on the surface. And it's like, if you only knew the price that was paid for you, you know, because at the end of the day, we all want love. We all want to feel accepted and feel like we belong, and we all want to feel love, you know. But like, we're doing things that are not, you know, that, first of all, if you're doing anything to receive someone's love, like, that in itself is never going to last, because, you know, real love can't be bought. You know, it's unconditional, and it's not changing. It's not depending on anything that we do or don't do, or anything that we are or are not. You know, the love of our Father is unconditional, and it's completely and solely a reflection of Him, and not in any way a reflection of us. Because if we received the love from Him that we deserved, we really would not have any, you know. And I wish that people knew that. I wish that people could fathom how much Jesus loves us, and really, you know, not to be like a downer or anything, but like, if you really think about, like, we could not even imagine the pain and suffering, and what He went through was just, it's hard to even comprehend. I could never comprehend, you know, and this is coming from someone who's experienced a decent amount of pain and trauma and abandonment, and, you know, I've suffered, you know, I have. It's nothing that I need to talk about, or that it's something that I want to talk about, but the reason I'm saying it is to say that I know pain, and I could never even imagine how much He suffered for all of us, you know, and not just in a physical sense, but in every way. You know, I mean, He was ridiculed, He was mocked, He was called a liar, He was isolated, abandoned, rejected. He was, you know, somebody said something the other day that really just kind of like blew my mind, to think about it like this, to think that He literally created this entire world. He literally created this entire world, and He came here and humbled Himself to like the lowliest of statuses. You know, He was, you know, I was talking to somebody the other day, because it got brought up, like, so there's a hospital in Baton Rouge. It's not a hospital anymore. I think the building now is used as like the Baton Rouge police station, you know, but it was like at one time it was a fairly big hospital, and what it used to be was a hospital that was like, I think I might be saying the wrong information. Maybe I'm not. Okay, at one time it was like a charity hospital, or it was like a hospital for like, you know, the like low income, like, you know, people that had nowhere else to go, you know. So if you went there, you were considered pretty much like, you know, you were in like poverty, you know, and like that was your social class or whatever. What I'm saying doesn't really make sense. I'm just trying to say it in a way that doesn't sound, I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, there's somebody that said that they were born there. And I remember thinking, you know, they probably don't feel good about that. Like, they probably see that as a not, you know, like something to be proud of, that, you know, you were born in like a low income facility like that. But, you know, I was like, but if you think about it, you know, Jesus Himself was born in a barn, you know, like He was born, they didn't even let, like, I understand it was way different times back then, so it's not like they had hospitals that He could have went to anyway. I understand. I don't even know what would be the typical place to give birth in that time period anyway, but I'm pretty sure it would be somewhere like an inn. You know, I feel like maybe they had those back then, you know, or someone's home that they would be able to be guest in, where they would be able to give birth to a baby in somewhere besides like next to donkeys and wildlife, you know, like, or in like, what is it called? Like, livestock, you know. He was born in a barn. And so it's like, if we could really just take the things that we think define us in a negative way, or like the parts of us that we're ashamed of, or the things that we went through that we think, you know, no one can understand or we can't heal from, you know, if we could only take that, and not to minimize it, not to say that any of us haven't suffered, or say that your suffering is not valid, but to think, like, if we could just for a moment, you know, put it in comparison to what He went through, and not just what He went through, like what He went through for us, you know. And not just that, but I think about, like, you know, the fact that not only did He endure everything that He endured for us, you know, He did it He had no basis for it of His own accord. Like, He wasn't paying the price for anything that He had ever done. You know, so it's like, we will defend ourselves when we're not perfect. You know, like, if I get accused of stealing something, I'm like appalled by that. I'm like, how dare you accuse me of being a thief? I'm just, just totally like just so offended by being called that. But like, there's no way that I could ever admit that, like, there's no way I could say that I've never stolen anything, So we get so offended, and we're so just like, we feel the need to defend ourselves so much when we're accused of things that we might not be guilty of that, particular thing, but like none of us are completely innocent in any way, in any sense, So it's like, here he is, he's being called the worst of the worst. He's being accused of all these things. Number one, they're calling him a liar because they're saying that he's not the Son of God, and he was. And then everything else that they were accusing him of, that, not only did he not do any of those things and was he perfect, but then he also endured the consequences of those things that he didn't do, and he did it all for us. And that's just crazy to me, it's because I know how hard it is to be accused of being something or doing something that, like being someone that you're not, or doing something that you didn't do, or saying something that you didn't say. Even the most sound person, like the person with the most solid, level of like self, like not self, I don't want to say self-esteem, but like someone that is very, very confident in who they are, and probably confident like in Christ, they're confident in who they are in Christ. But even that person, it would be really, really hard for someone to just sit there and say you did something that you didn't do, or you are someone that you're not, or question something like, if you have a relationship with God, then that probably means a lot to you. So to have somebody be like, you don't know God, you don't go to church, we don't believe you, like prove it, like everything in us would want to defend that and be like, that's not true, like how could you say that, and then, not just that, but like everybody, wants to have, it's hard to stand alone, so to have like, all these people against you, and they all think that they're right, and they think that you're wrong, and that you're, it's just crazy. It's crazy to think like what he did for us, and so that's one thing that I wanted to say. Another thing that I wanted to say is something that was kind of like, I'm trying to think of what it was, because it was something that was kind of weighing on me. I was thinking about being patient in the Lord, being patient and waiting on the things that we ask him for, or that he promises us, or, maybe it's like we're going through a trial and we're just like, it's like, I know he's going to bring me out of it because he promises that he will, or be with me to go through it, or that, this too shall pass, and all those things. But like, sometimes when you're in the midst of it, like, it's hard to see past that. Like, I know, for me, there's been many times when I was just like, I believe that you're going to do what you say that you're going to do, but like, where are you, and it's hard not to get mad. It's hard not to lose hope or lose faith, or for it to at least deteriorate, like to diminish a little bit. Like when you think like, I want to believe this, but like nothing's happening, so I was thinking back over my life, the worse it was, like how bad I was suffering, the worse it was, the more amazed I still am that God really did come through. And I don't know if that makes sense, but like, there were times that I needed him, that he showed up, and that's awesome, but then when it was like, I'm like, well, yeah, good. Well, of course he showed up, like he said he was going to, But then like when I was going through really, really hard stuff, like really, and also again, like, not that anybody deserves anything, but especially when you're enduring something that you can pretty much say is not, I don't want to say you're not your fault, but like when you're being treated badly, or you're suffering from something that really is just it's just an effect of this fallen world that we live in, it's not really something that you could say, well, I deserve that, or this is just the consequences of my actions, but when you're in a situation like where you really are trying to do right, and you didn't do anything necessarily to like warrant this type of treatment or suffering, and it's like, then you go to God and you're like, God, I need you to pull me out of this, or at least let me feel you here with me, like I know that you're here, you say that you are, but like I don't feel you. I feel alone, and I feel like I'm starting to feel abandoned, and I'm starting to lose hope that that this is ever going to get better. So it's like, the worse this situation, I'm still like shocked and just completely blown away by like how he really does show up in such a mighty way. Like, it's crazy to me. So I was thinking back about the other day, you know, I was thinking about when I was married, and it was like in the very end of my marriage, and things were very, very bad, and I was getting treated really, really badly, you know, and I knew in my heart that it was not right. I knew that even though God does not like, you know, God is not for divorce, I also knew that he was not for any of his children being treated the way that I was being treated, and so I was very conflicted about what to do, because I was like, God, I want to leave so bad, because I can't take this much longer. Like, I can't take being treated like this. Like, I'm hurting, you know. And so I remember, like, I was kneeling down on the side of my bed, and I was praying. I was like, God, like, I need you to reassure me. Like, I need something from you to tell me that, like, this is going to be okay. Because I don't know how much longer I can do this, you know, like, please, like, be there for me, you know, like, you see that I'm hurting, like, I need you, you know. And right as I'm praying and I'm crying, and I'm just like so, you know, just like so desperate, you know, my at the time husband, he walks up and he sits down next to me. Like, he kneels down next to me by the bed, and he's like, Father God, we just come to you, Lord, Father God. And he starts praying. And I'm like, really? Like, I literally look up at the ceiling, and I'm like, really? Like, that's what you have for me? You know, I felt so betrayed. Like, I felt like that was the biggest slap in the face to me, for me to be crying out to God, God, please help me, rescue me, save me from this man that is hurting me, you know, or at least give me some type of hope that you're going to, you know, and that I can patiently wait on that, and that it's going to be okay. And for this man to kneel down beside me and start praying to God too, like, it hurt me so bad. And I'm not going to say that I lost all hope. I know that I didn't. If anything, I probably leaned more into God, but in that very moment, like, I was very mad at him, you know, and I look back on it now, and the way God rescued me or saved me and pulled me out of that situation, I could never in a million years even begin to, like, it's crazy the way he showed up, and the way he was there for me, and the way he protected me, and the way he used it all for good. You know, he used everything that I went through for good. And the thing is, yes, we could all die at any moment. I know that I know that full well, but, like, I can rest assured now that, like, if I'm living my life for God, and I'm trying to do the right thing, and I'm not living in sin, like, I don't have to ever worry that there's going to be a situation that's going to be bigger than me and stronger than me, than him, than God, you know, because that was me facing death face to face every day, you know, not knowing if I was going to make it through the night. That's how serious the situation was. And God wasn't doing that to hurt me, or to psych me out, or confuse me, or anything like that, or, like, things had to happen the way they did for God's plan to you know, for his will to be done completely, and for it all to be used for good. Because, you know, if God would have rescued me from that situation when I wanted him to, and how I wanted him to, it really could have ended up with me being a victim. And had I been a victim in my eyes, or in the eyes of society, or my family, or anybody who, you know, unfortunately, anybody that, you know, betrayed me and turned on me, and for, you know, like, you know, abandoned me, you know, anybody that did that, like, it may have been done in a way that would have allowed them to, or caused them to see me as a victim, and have sympathy on me, or cater to me in any way that no one did except God. You know, and God never saw me as a victim. He just saw me as his child that he loved. And I have no doubt that he hurt with me, you know, and allowing me to go through that. Number one, it let me know that God was always with me, and he was not going to allow me to suffer anything that he could not heal me from. And he was not going to let anything happen to me that he couldn't deliver me from. You know, I survived some really, really awful things. And my life is a testimony to that, you know, to God and to what he did for me. So there's been times since then that I was in similar situations, maybe not that I was being abused or anything like that, but like maybe I felt trapped in other ways in situations in life or in my own mind or in my own situation, my own circumstances, whatever it may be. Like I was at that point again, the same feelings, but like same, like different scenario, different situation, but like same scenario, if that makes sense. I know it really doesn't, but like I felt that same sense of hopelessness and desperation. Like, God, I need you so bad right now. And so there's like one part of me that's holding on to that faith that's unmovable, that I know that there's not a chance that God's not going to come through for me. But at the same time, the logical, you know, physical side of my brain that sees what it sees and makes assumptions based on that, it goes, you know what, this is not going to happen. You know, that was that time, and yeah, he came through that time, but like this time is different and he's not here, you know. And it's like fortunately I clung to that faith that's came only from him coming through when everything in me said he's not going to, you know. And every time he came through for me, the worse the situation was, the more profound and the more amazing and like just really like out of this world. Like I can't even believe like how he showed up, and he did it in a way that can glorify him and that can, you know, I don't know what I want ever. Like even when I pray for stuff, like I have to just pray in God's, you know, for God's will to be done. Because if I ask for what I want or what I think I need in that situation, it's never going to lead. It's never going to even hold a candle to like what he can do. Like you need him to get you out of a situation, he'll get you out of it, but he'll do it in a way that is just so far beyond what you could ever imagine, you know. You need him to bless you with something. If there's something you need, you know, if you ask it in his will, he'll give you far more and far better than you could ever even imagine. That's what I love so much about him, is I love being able to surrender to him, knowing that like his ways are so much above my ways, his thoughts are so much above my thoughts, and I can tell him what I want and what I need, but I can always do it knowing that he can override my wants and needs and what I pray for and give me. I'm always going to appreciate him giving me what he thinks, you know, in light of what I ask for, like his version of that, which is going to be so much better, and just so much more like divine, you know. And that's another reason that I can trust in, you know, when I don't get the things that I think I need, or when I'm praying and I don't see anything happening, you know, I can trust that it's because even though it's something I think I need right now, I've given God the go ahead, like the green light to like override what I think I want and need, because I'm fully aware, like there's no part of me that questions now whether or not I know more than God what I need or what I want or what's best in my life, or anybody else's life for that matter, you know. So, you know, with all that being said, it's like I'm at a point in my life right now where it's not that desperation that it was before, but if I'm being honest with myself, like I'm still hurting in a lot of ways. It's not a pain that's like I can't, like it's not unbearable, but it's still a feeling of like this is not how I want to feel, you know. This is not my heart hurting, like this is not what I think God ever intended for me to, how life was intended to be for me. But so, you know, this time last year was when I started waiting outside for the rapture every night. That was really all I did, you know, because I was so desperate and so just like hopeless that anything in my life could ever change otherwise. You know, I saw no chance of me on my own, you know, anything that I could do that would cause any type of significant change in my life to make things any better. And I didn't think that I didn't even know of any way to ask God. I didn't even know of anything to ask him, you know, besides like, hey, just come back and get me, like I'm done here, you know. And which is crazy, because like there's something that in property management, I would always, I noticed that people would do that. They would move into these apartments, and they would not know how to take care of a home. It would just be in a very, very bad living conditions. Whether it just be whatever the case may be. I mean, that it was not anything that was wrong with the apartment itself. It was just people not knowing how to take care of things. But they would always come up with these crazy reasons why they would want, and usually it was mold. Or water damage or something like that, and they're like, if you'll just move me to another apartment. And I'm thinking, like, that's not going to solve anything. That's not how it works. You can't just go to one apartment, trash it, and then make up an excuse to get somebody just to put you in a new, nicer apartment. But that's what people wanted, and I can't criticize that, because I feel like that's what I've done in my life. God has taken me out of bad situations and put me in better situations. Not ideal, but better, definitely better than what I was in. And I was forced to do a little work as well. I had to really show up too, as far as on my end of the deal. But they would always end up kind of going to a different version of that same, just like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is miserable, like, please, God, save me, and so now it's like, I'm here, and I can't see of anything that would put me in that situation again, where I would need, just to escape, but the thought of living like this for, long term is like kind of depressing. It really is. And I hate to say that, but it really is, because like I miss my kids, and I don't see that changing. And the longer I'm sober, and the longer the longer I'm sober, and the less I run from those feelings, those very, very painful emotions that are just always inside of me, the harder it gets. And the more I fall back into that state of hopelessness, And the good thing is, I'm to a point in my life and with my walk with God, and He's shown me time and time again, He's shown me enough for me to know, completely trust, that He's going to get me out of it one way or the other. Either He's going to walk with me through this, because it's not like I'm going through something necessarily. It's just I can't see a future where I start taking the steps that I need to take, or if there is anything that I could do to be back in my children's life, or have them be back in my life, or to get back on my feet, in any real way. Like I'm making it right now. I'm sober, and I'm happy, and I'm really just doing great at life, all things considered. But I'm by no means like living a life that I can be really that proud of, in as far as like the eyes of society, or like in this world, if that makes sense. So even though like I'm growing in my walk with God, and I'm growing as a person, and I'm healing, and I'm growing like in my sobriety and everything, it's like, it's just kind of like, this is what life is, but I believe that, if I really do have faith, and believe in myself, because the thing is, I know God's willing and able, I know He is, but I have to know that, I have to believe that I'm worthy of these things that I can never see happening, I don't really want to get, I know that's kind of not making sense, but what I'm saying is that God's gonna get me out of, or get me through, or get me to wherever I need to be, or whatever His will is. Like, it's always gonna end in me being okay, and one day, whether it be today, or at the end of a very, very long life, very long, fulfilling life on this earth, or if it ends with Him coming back for His people at any point between now and then, however it happens, it's gonna end in victory for me, as long as I keep having hope in Him. And that's pretty cool, And then the last thing I'm really not going to say anything else, because I'm just kind of trying to ease back into this. So my live stream would not, like, it would let me start a live stream, but it wouldn't, my camera, it was just black. So I don't really know what that's about. I don't know if it's because it has been a while since I've been on here. But it's not like it's telling me, it's not like it's a problem with YouTube itself. Like it's saying like, you know, it's not a problem with my account or anything. It's literally just a problem with like, even if I flip the camera, like it's just black. So, and if you know anything about YouTube or live stream, or if you have any suggestions on that or any input, that would be greatly appreciated, because I do want to get back to doing live streams. And the main reason I want to get back to doing live streams is because it's entirely, you know, it's just tedious to upload these videos to my phone, like record them on my phone, upload them to YouTube and all that stuff. Like it's a lot. You know, not that I don't have time, but it's so much more ideal for me just to hop on here and do a live stream real quick, and then be done with it, you know. But either way, I wanted to incorporate this back into my life, because I always said that I was going to do it when I felt God lead me to do it, and for a while he didn't, you know, and now I feel that pull again, you know, to be back on here, for even though I still don't know exactly what that purpose is. I just trust that as long as God's laying it on my heart to do this, that it will be for his glory. And you know, with that being said, I mean, spoiler alert, I am still sober. I am still living in sober living. I'm still working. I'm still in a relationship. I still have my dogs. I still have my peace of mind. I think I'm, you know, coming up on 8 months sober. There's like birds over there. Little birds. So, that's like a big deal for me, you know, like I've never done this before. I've never made it this far without, you know, resorting to any type of, outlet, as far as like very unhealthy, sinful outlets to cope with the things in life, or the things, you know, emotions that I've never been able to handle. Like I'm actually doing the thing right now, you know. That's not me bragging, but that's like, really, it kind of is. I'm like, you know, if you have been watching my channel and you've kind of been like on the fence about like maybe you struggle with addiction, or maybe you, you know somebody that is, you know, 8 months might not be a long time, but you know, like I was saying, I did the math the other day, like, you know, it's been like, I want to say 23 years of my life that I've, you know, that I did not, I didn't cope with anything without the, you know, without resorting to, you know, sex or drugs or alcohol, you know, or unhealthy behavior, you know what I mean, like eating disorders, reckless behavior, you know, just very, very dangerous things, you know, just, you know, and just darkness. And I'm just very happy that I'm here today, you know. I'm very happy that I'm still here. And you know, I did say a while back I was going to start doing these so that I would be able to hold myself accountable, but I was very proud of myself to be able to be like, okay, you know, I'm getting back on here. But it's not because, you know, I haven't fallen off or anything. I saw that I was starting to do it for a reason that was not of God, you know. I mean, I never wanted it to be a vanity thing, and as a woman, it's just hard not to make it like that, you know. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do a live stream today, but then I would get on here, I would spend like 2 hours, you know, like trying to figure out what I was gonna wear, or like put on makeup and stuff, and I'm like, that's not what I want it to be about it at all, you know. I don't want it to be at all like an ego thing for me, you know, and it's just hard, like I said, like as women, it's just hard for it not to, you know. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do it and I'll just do like audio. I won't do like video or anything, but like that was weird too. So I was like, I just had to wait. I just had to kind of like, you know, back off a little bit until I knew I was like at a more healthy place, you know, with myself, to where I could do it for the right reasons and not let it be like a, you know, like a vanity thing. And I kind of feel like I'm there right now, you know. I feel like I'm good with this, and I'll just kind of take it, you know, as it goes. Also, I feel like, you know, there was a period of time where I thought like, well, nobody wants to know, nobody wants to hear anything that I have to say, you know. And maybe they don't, and maybe you don't. Even if you're watching it, maybe you do. And also, you know, it's like you know, the things that I've experienced, the things that I have to say, anything that I can share with anybody else that could help them, you know, my length of sobriety is not going to make it any more or less valid. But I do feel like there's a certain level of confidence that comes from like, hey, you know, I can say this knowing that like I wasn't just talking crazy, like, you know, I wasn't just like out of my mind, you know, like, or I wasn't just on this high horse of like I've been sober a month, so like you should listen to everything I have to say and like I know everything, because that's a very real thing that happens early in sobriety. Not that I'm not early in sobriety, but like I've got a little bit of time under my belt. I'm seeing things a little more clearly. Life is slowed down a little bit, you know, everything's kind of like leveled out a little bit. I still have my, you know, moments. I still have like you know, things still come up, you know, but it seems like the lows, the lows seem not as low every time. They seem to not last as long, and the coming out of it always seems a lot more triumphant, and it seems like I'm learning more and growing more every time. So that's very that's encouraging, you know, because what happens is, you know, yes, there's a trust in God, obviously, but also, you know, in order to have a healthy relationship with God, I think you have to be able to trust yourself. And so every time I'm able to, you know, see things through and not freak out and look to him, you know, because like, yeah, that's another thing too, is like it all goes back to him. But it's like, you know, there's times that I'm like, I've been going through something and I've just hit my knees to pray and it was just all okay, and I'm like, why did I not do this before? You know, I'm like, why have I been suffering like this so long when I really this whole time could have just like went to the one who has all power at all times, you know? I'm gonna spray this bug spray real quick. These bugs are like crazy. And then another thing too is like, you know, there's still times when I think like that like not in like a, I don't know, I don't really have to go into it. I'm just let me just say that you know, like I'm really glad that I'm here. I'm glad that I stuck this out for as long as I did, even though it's not that long in the grand scheme of things. You know, I am a runner, I am a bolter, I am when things get hard, I get going, you know, like, and I'm realizing now, you know, like life has been pretty good since I've been here, like in general, like with my job, with the house, with my relationship, with my sobriety, like all those things, like life in general has been pretty good. But as you know, like always, there's going to be things that are going to come up, and even the times that were like really like pretty serious issues that were going on, that I was, you know, things that I was going through, you know, there was never a thought in my mind like I'm out, you know, like it was never a thought to like just bail on whatever it was, the job, the house, whatever. And seeing how beautifully it all played out, you know, seeing how God was able to work things out all for the good, you know, it made me think, man, like what if I would have stuck like everything in the past that I didn't stick out, you know? It's like, dang, like what would have happened if I would have stayed in those situations when they got uncomfortable, rather than just, you know, bolting at the first, you know, like just like, you know, our pastor always says like stay in the boat, you know, like when Paul when they were like in the boat and they were like, you know, gonna be like shipwrecked, or you know, like shipwrecked, they were going through like a really, really bad storm, and you know, they were, you know, God just was telling him like stay in the boat, you know. And it's like I keep reminding myself of that, because like, you know, staying in the boat has led to like some beautiful, like it's really giving God a chance to show me what he's capable of doing if I'll give him the opportunity, you know. And I think too, you know, like if God's ever going to use me in any real way, he's going to need me to stay put. You know, I can't help somebody else in any capacity if I'm just running, every time things get hard. That's not faith at all. That's just, and it's always running backwards. Like, not one time in my life have I left a bad situation and gone to a better situation. Now things have gotten better eventually, but never have I left, for like, it's just not how it works. It's like you always go backwards. But with God, if you can just stick it out, he'll get you through it, and he'll bring you into like these beautiful new situations that it's like, it's worth it. It's so worth it. And that's just kind of where I am, is like, going back to what I was saying earlier, that's where I'm at. I'm at the point of, if you stick it out with God and you let him, and it's all these cheesy cliches that I've heard for so long, but they really are so true. Like, stick around, like, wait for the miracle, like, this too shall pass. It's like, it really is. Not only is it like, it gives God an opportunity to really reveal himself to you and just give you a better glimpse of like what he truly is all about. But also, like, it builds faith, it builds endurance, it builds character, and then it leads to better opportunities. It leads to growth and a closer bond with him, and more trust in him. And it's so beautiful. And when I tell you I'm only scratching the surface, I'm only scratching the surface. Like, I am like literally like a baby Christian, like, I am literally, like Paul would say, like, I am just still drinking milk spiritually. I'm not even ready for whole food yet, but even now, like, God has revealed himself to me in a way that's just like, it's unbelievable. And when it's real, when you really let him in and let him reveal himself to you, even in the smallest ways, like even just a little bit, it's more addicting. You get more hooked, and you want that more than you could ever want any type of other, substance or any other way of coping with things in life that just don't offer that, and if they do, it's very, very short-lived, and it's very unhealthy, and it's like very, destructive. But he's different. He's the only one that can save us. He's the only one that can redeem us. He's the only one that can give us like really a life worth living, long term, and like true actual hope, and joy, like the joy of the Lord. So I'm glad that I did this. I am going to start doing it more. I got this picnic table over here away from everybody because I have 2 roommates now. So getting a chance to be in their room by myself is probably not going to happen. But so I have this nice little picnic table out here, kind of away from everybody. And also, it's kind of like the bugs, I don't think are going to be quite as bad because the weather's cooling off some now. I have this beautiful yard that I can chill in anytime I want. But fortunately, I don't have to sit outside all night long waiting for the rapture and desperation. But even that grew my faith, even then, like, God was with me, as crazy as it may have been, and it was a little bit crazy, but it was real to me. That's how hopeless I was. That's how lost I was. That's how desperate for him I was, and just because he didn't come any of those nights, like, I sat out there for so long, and when I came in every morning, I was just so heartbroken. Like, I was so devastated that it was like another day in this life, that I was, just cursed to live, like, in the absence of him. Really, I wasn't in the absence of him, but I was. It's like, it was so heartbreaking, And now it's like, I have the strength to keep going. Life is good to the point that, like, every day that Jesus doesn't come back, it's okay. Like, the life that I have now is starting to be a pretty decent consolation prize. It's in no way ever going to be compared to the joy that's going to come when he reveals himself to me or to us, in real life, like face to face. Like, there's nothing in this life that could ever compare to that. but it's not the end of the world if he doesn't come back. You know, I still have hope for each day. And again, another one of those, you know, played out slogans that are so true, you know, like one day at a time. God gives me enough hope, and he gives me the like a daily reprieve to where I can get through just one day. I don't have to think about what it's going to be like to be on this earth 30, 40, 50 more years. You know, I can just think, well, if I have to be here today and tomorrow, I can live with that. You know, life is, you know, I have people in my life that make it worthwhile. And I'm finally to a point where I've allowed those people to take their place in my life and fill me with the joy that was always hurt and pain and disappointment from the people that I had to let go, that were never going to love me or be good for me in my life. You know, the hurt that came from that rejection and that abandonment of those people, you know, once I finally started to let that go and that pain subsided, I was able to, you know, open the door for some really, really, really amazing people in my life. And that's, you know, including like church family, mother type figures, you know, godly women, friends, you know, even my relationship with Danny. You know, it's like once I finally let go of this idea that like I needed some, you know, piece of crap that I could like chase around that would never truly love me, you know, like I've always loved Danny, and we've always had a very much a loving, you know, respectful relationship, but there was still that part of me that was always kind of just like, yeah, but he's just nice to me and he respects me, and you know, and I would never have said that out loud. You know, I'm not saying that that's like a conscious thought that I had, but I mean, I can admit, you know, openly, like I can be honest and say that, you know, there was a part of me that never fully believed that I deserved someone that truly loved me and accepted me for who I was, and not in a way of like, I love you despite you. You know, that's very condescending, and that's very belittling, and that's really like, that's not to me, that's not real. You know, when a person says like, I love you, like, bless your heart, I love you anyway, like that's not real love. You know, God, yes, we are sinners, and God sees past that, and he loves us anyway, but we have to be right in his eyes. We have to be you know, we have to be saved and born again in Jesus Christ for God to see us not as the wretched sinners that we are. He does love us, but he doesn't love us like despite how wretched we are, is what I'm trying to say. So if you're with somebody who says they love you anyway, that's probably not real love. Reminding a person that you love them, but it's like, if I remind you every day that I love you, but it's because I'm a big enough person I can look past all your flaws and still love you, that's not love. And you have to be careful with that, because that's a very subtle way of like putting somebody down. And but that's not how Danny loves me. Danny loves me like in a very, he sees me for who I really am, and he saw me for that even when I wasn't really being that person, you know. And I'm grateful for that, and I've loved him too, you know, like I've been good to him, and we've been through some stuff, but we didn't tear each other apart like most people do. And he is like my number one person now. You know, I say now, I mean, like, I say that, I guess I say that in a way of like, you know, it's real now. I could say all the things in the world that I wanted to say, good or bad, about a person, but when I was in the state that I was in, my word didn't really matter for much. You know, my word didn't really hold much weight. You know, not to put myself down, but, you know, I mean, I just wasn't somebody that I would look up to. I wasn't somebody that I would respect, or somebody whose word I would take to heart, you know. That doesn't mean that I didn't have a relationship with God, because I did, but I wasn't living my life right, and sin separates us from God. So, you know, I'm grateful that I'm not there anymore. I'm grateful that I was able to finally see that, and God was able to take me out of that and deliver me from that, and you know, place my feet on solid ground. You know, and that's where I intend to stay. You know, I mean, yes, there will be troubles. Yes, there will be valleys. Yes, there will be, you know, things that will come my way. And not even that, you know, like things out of my control. And maybe things that maybe I fall short of the glory of God. And maybe I, you know, backslide or anything like that. Like, it could happen. But, like, I know that no matter what, like, I'm good now, you know? We're good. I'm good. I'll probably edit this part out because I feel like that was weird. But, and also I think it's weird that I'm wearing like this like dress like type shirt. It's actually well, it's not a dress type shirt. It's actually a dress. So it looks cuter when I'm just wearing a ball cap, and like it looks like I'm wearing like a blouse that I would wear to like court or something. I don't go to court. But yeah, look, this is like very much me. Is like now, you know, I'm very much like a walking, living, breathing mullet. You know, I'm like party in the top, business in the bottom. I was so glad that I made it through this video being serious. I was so glad for that, but I was like, let me switch it up at the end. Let me, you know, let me just kind of like be me for a minute, because this is me, you know, like I'm still happy. I'm still me. I'm still, an anomaly. I'll always be an anomaly. And I'll always be me, and I'm just a better version of me now. I'm a sober version of me now that I can actually live with, that I know people want to be around because I want to be around me. And that's a great thing, and all glory to God because of that. It is good to be back, though. I do plan on doing these more. I'm talking now just because I'm like, I like that I'm on here. But yeah, so if you're watching this, thank you for watching. I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe, if you would click the like button, if you would share this video with somebody who might benefit from it. I'll probably get into some more serious topics, you know, in the future. But I just wanted to start this off, you know, just kind of being like, hey, I'm back. I'm back, and you know, I just want to kind of get this thing revved up again and see where it goes. And you know, I just hope that God will you know, guide me in whatever way he wants me to go, if this is part of, you know, his purpose and his will for my life. And if you don't know him as your Lord and Savior, I hope that you will do that. I pray that you will find him, and that you will allow him to reveal to you, you know, the width and depth and length of his everlasting love, and the peace that only comes from him, that transcends understanding. And it's such a beautiful thing. Like, I hear the wind, like, you know, just kind of like blowing through the bushes over there, and it's like so peaceful, it's so serene, it's so beautiful, and it's so like, just, you know, just like this, it's just, that's God, you know. I mean, he's all powerful, almighty, he's, you know, he's everything, but like sometimes he's just like the peace that we all long for. You know, we all long for that peace and calmness, that just, you know, the calm in the storm. And that's what he is, and I'm so thankful for that, and I'm so thankful for y'all. And with that being said, oh, I got another ant on me. With that being said, I'm gonna sign off, and I will see y'all next time. Thank you.